Welcome everybody. My name is Wes McLagan, and I'll be your host for today's webinar on how digital marketers should be navigating the COVID crisis. I'm clearly here at home, and we'll do our best, but I figure if Saturday Night Live can host an entire episode from Tom Hanks' kitchen, we should be able to pull this off. If there are any issues, we will be sending out a recording, and so you won't miss anything. As a quick introduction, I lead the marketing team at Marin Software. Marin Software makes a platform that helps digital marketers deliver growth from their investments in search, social, and e-commerce advertising. Our clients use our tool, Marin One, to manage over $3 billion in annual spend, which gives us a great view of what's happening across different segments of the economy. I'll be joined later by Jake Renter, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Intertwine Interactive, for a quick discussion. The thesis of this webinar is that we can't give you a playbook on what you should be doing because every business, every vertical is going to be slightly different. So we're taking a different approach. We want to highlight the questions that you should be asking as you think about how you're going to adapt to the current situation. We'll try and give you a framework for answering these questions as well as we can, but ultimately it's going to be up to you to meet the needs of your business. We'll start today with some background on what we're seeing from a couple different perspectives. That will be followed by a Q&A with Jake on how he's helping his customers respond to the crisis. After that, I'll review the questions that we think all digital marketers should be asking to successfully navigate these times. We'll have a live Q&A session at the end, so if you have any questions, please use the chat function in the GoToWebinar console. So, what are we seeing? Well, obviously, there's a lot of memes. My kids got me with the, "Hey Dad, the toilet is smoking" routine. And if you need a little pick-me-up, be sure to Google "horse with no name quarantine video." What that woman's doing with her hair is pretty amazing. But what's going on in the digital world? Well, first of all, we're of course online all the time. So usage is just skyrocketing. Zoom, of course, is doing great, but traffic on Facebook, YouTube, everything is jumping. This means a huge amount of additional supply in the display space, which means there's been softening in CPMs for both display and video. Given that we deal a lot in search, I wanted to see what was going on in the search world. And so I started playing around on Google Trends to see what kind of patterns were visible there. This one is the trend on flights to Hawaii. And clearly, many people's first response in early March when this crisis was kicking off was, I wonder if now's a good time to go to Hawaii. Well, but not much of a drop-off afterwards. And I thought it would be better to get a more complete sense of what's going on. And so I took a look at the aggregate impressions across all of Marin's customer base. And the thing that was interesting was that the impression volume jumped with that increase in activity. So not only are people on YouTube and Facebook, but they're actually searching more now that they're online more. So this big increase in the quarantine, as the quarantine orders started to go into effect, is showing that there's customer demand out there. Now, as marketers have pulled back a little bit, you've seen some of this come down, but we're still way above where we were at the beginning, pre-crisis. And so the takeaway for me here is that there's consumer demands. People are getting on with their lives, actively searching for things, and our role is to help them find what they need. Drilling into this a little bit deeper, we also wanted to see the effect on pricing. And not surprisingly, we see a softening similar in search CPCs across most industries. And this is similar to what you're seeing on the display side. But even those whether you're seeing big increases in demand like media and entertainment, or you're seeing volume drop off, the CPCs are going down in both directions and are lower than they were in February. So how are marketers responding to this? Well, eMarketer did a survey recently, and there is definitely some apprehension out there. 49% of marketers are holding back a campaign from launching until later in the year. Almost as many are shifting budgets around. Then there's those that are stopping completely or not launching new efforts until later in the year. But to give a little bit more color on how advertisers are responding, I sat down with Jake Renter of Intertwine Media earlier and wanted to share our conversation. Thanks for taking the time to connect with me. Why don't we start out with, can you tell me a little bit about Intertwine and your mix of customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Intertwine is a digital marketing agency based out of Omaha, Nebraska. We currently have a pretty eclectic group of customers that we're managing for. We have about 75 unique clients that we're managing. We're managing upwards of $1 billion in annual revenue, which is about $100 million in ad spend on an annual basis. It's a pretty even 50-50 split between e-commerce and lead generation clients. And it ranges. We've got B2B clients, we've got B2C clients, we've got local clients, we've got national clients. So it's really all over the board. In my 15 years of, or in our 15 Intertwine's 15 years of business, we've really touched almost every vertical that there is out there. So it's kind of one of the exciting parts of what we do is you just get to touch so many different verticals.
That's great. So you should have a lot of perspective to share what you're seeing going during this unusual time. Since you guys are a customer on the Marin platform, we do see all your clients, and I see spend changes, month over month spend that are, some are down 80%, some are up 800%. So obviously quite a big range. Overall, what are you seeing from your advertisers? What are you hearing from customers during this?
Yeah, kind of like our customer mix, it's really all over the board. It's not necessarily one message that we're hearing or that we're seeing within our clients, within their accounts. As you said, we've got clients that are 10x over what they were previously getting either last year or even early parts of January. We've unfortunately on the opposite end of it, we do have clients that are naturally down 80%. Customers just are not searching for the vertical. We do have clients that are or that have paused campaigns entirely. So it's really a mix all over the board. And we're just doing as much as we can to convey the best strategy across the board for each of our individual clients.
So it seems like some level of cutbacks is just something to be expected for a lot of different verticals. What kind of advice are you giving your clients if they've got to start scaling back on their programs? Where do they look to make the cuts? Are there anything that's first to go, anything that should be last to go?
Yeah, so I would say we're kind of looking at it from a top-down approach. First of all, we need to understand what their channel mix is, what their attribution funnel is, so we can really understand the value that every initiative is bringing to their bottom line. And then again, take that top-down approach. If they're hurting for business, if they need new customers right now, we're really trying to focus in on the bottom of the funnel. And maybe the first thing to go is that mid to upper funnel initiative so we can focus in on the immediate dollars, the immediate return that we're getting right now. Vice versa, if your business goal is more of a long term, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe if the demand is not there for your customers, change that mix and work on more mid and upper funnel because the demand is not there. So now you can go out and build a brand. You can further your awareness because of a lot of other advertisers are pulling back.
Got it. And if we focus on search in particular, do you see search budgets being less impacted as they tend to be more bottom of funnel, or do you see people shifting dollars from, category terms to brand terms as a similar kind of?
Yeah, I would say search is the last to go that we are seeing. Most is from a display perspective. It's from an awareness perspective that they're pulling back, and their search is that bottom of the bottom. If somebody's actively searching for it, they're in the market to purchase, and so your budget might naturally decrease. We've certainly had clients in the retail, in the restaurant business that people just are not searching for the demand, and so it is naturally 60-70% down. Thus, the budget is down. But if people are still searching, I think you really need to be there.
Got it. And what about on the e-commerce side? I know you handle Amazon for some clients. How has that been affected?
Yep. So Amazon, our biggest recommendation right now is, or our issue and further recommendation is on a fulfillment perspective. Amazon has obviously restricted a lot of what they are doing, a lot of what they are prioritizing from a fulfillment perspective. So as we've seen that, we've just tried to shift our focus into products or that consumers have a high surplus of inventory with Amazon right now. We certainly don't want to run out of inventory if Amazon's not taking any new products in. So it's really prioritizing on an inventory perspective from Amazon. And that's kind of trickled down to website where we've seen more demand, we've been pushing on products. We've been communicating on products with the client that they have an excess of inventory to make sure they don't run out in 3 weeks, 3 months, however long this continues to last.
Yep. And so inventory makes sense. What about, Amazon is doing some level of prioritization of certain types of inventory versus others in the shipments. Have you seen that affect shipping rates, or are you factoring that into Amazon decisions at all?
Um, Shipping rates has not really been affected, but it is the buy box. It is, we have seen an issue with being able to get a product within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so it's kind of overall you're rating your scores with Amazon. We have seen kind of it pull back a little bit, just because, if you don't have usually it's 4%. If you're not 4% delivery, you're losing out a lot of your ratings with Amazon. And so, we're seeing Amazon kind of push that and extend that back to allow for the extended shipping time.
Got it. Okay, so they're being a little more flexible. That's good.
Correct.
If we take a look at the other end of the spectrum, where things where there's opportunity, a lot of brands are not interested in being seen as capitalizing on this moment. But as you said, if people are searching for your products, like they have a need that they're trying to fulfill, how do advertisers who are seeing demand, how do they do that, take advantage of that responsibly in a way that's helping customers and continuing to build their business?
Yeah, the essential items have kind of been flying off the shelves as everybody would expect, and it's really just making sure that we're actively present, that we're actively there, communicating with the client to ensure that they're not running out of stock, that we are pushing when demand is there. Has kind of been our number one thing that we've been trying to push, is just that open lines of communication both ways between them to us and us to them, in terms of this week we're seeing a shift into particular product. So let's really focus in what we're doing with that particular category. But next week that demand might pull back, and so we don't need to be as aggressive, and we can shift our focus into where that demand is.
Got it. And are there any unexpected bright spots, or anything that something that you wouldn't have expected to be doing well this time or in this situation?
I The DIY projects, the household projects. I know my honeydew list has expanded pretty significantly, and so we're seeing pretty big demand just for DIY, for household goods, for kind of individual projects that you can do isolated from the masses.
Yep. Got it. No, that makes sense. It's just like apparently everybody's becoming a big baker right now. That's
exactly.
Fill that time.
Yep.
When I talk to our advertisers, we talked about there's some areas that are doing well, some people that are having to pull back. It seems like there's a big group in the middle who are facing uncertainty. It's their business is doing okay, but what is the economic outlook? How long is this going to last? How are you helping customers think about the right way to navigate, for that group in the middle?
Yeah. First and foremost, I think we've been very fortunate with our clients. We've built very good relationships, both personal and business relationships. A lot of them are long-term clients. So the first thing that we have been trying to communicate and convey is just the personal relationship. The we'll be there. We're helping support, just as another person to talk through for strategy. The second one is just every business is different. Every business is a little unique. So we're just trying to understand what the best strategy is for each individual business, as opposed to creating kind of mass rules across the board for everybody. The third one, in terms of how are we helping, it's really all about data at this point in time. Is we're just trying to follow what the data is saying if we're seeing pullbacks in conversion rates in average order values, we really need to start pulling back our advertising. Vice versa, if and when that conversion rate starts moving upwards to where it was pre pullback, then let's start really stepping on the gas and pushing more as we see that data come through.
I love both the beginning and the end there. The personal connection with customers, I think, is super important. I think we've all been inundated with emails of, hey, we're here to help, but I think there's a lot that every company can do to make sure that you're being fair to your customers, you're connecting with them, you're helping them out during this time, and that's the lens that marketing should be thinking through at this time. And then letting the data speak for what you should be doing, I think is super important. I mean, the whole thesis of this conversation, this webinar that we're having, is that there isn't going to be a one size fits all solution for any company or even any industry. And so, we're trying to set up what are the questions that you should be asking as a marketer, and hopefully coming out with the right answers there.
Yep.
Being sensitive and coming across with the right message right now is something we want to be aware of. Do you see anything that's working well for your customers in terms of how they're talking about their offering, or have you seen any examples of anything, any mistakes to avoid?
Yeah, yep. First and foremost is don't force it. If COVID is not directly impacting your business, don't necessarily try and add messaging about COVID just to have it. So when it does fit, keep it simple. And we have not been trying to directly push COVID messaging as opposed to how your business can benefit from it. So messages like shop from home, curbside pickup, virtual tours, just things like that you can subtly add in there that the consumer knows that they can still shop through you. They can still, and this is how they can get their product from you guys.
Yep. So again, coming back to meeting that customer need, not focused on what you want to deliver, but how do you help those people?
Exactly. Yep, absolutely.
So some of our clients we've seen having a little bit more time on their hands if their industry has slowed down. Are you helping clients with any type of strategic projects or working through their backlog that's going to help them set themselves up for the recovery? What type of projects are you working on?
Yeah, like I said, I think the most important thing is setting yourself up for once this ends. It's going to be even more crucial for businesses to acquire customers, to get new business coming into their doors. So things that we've seen the most is more on the SEO, more on the website, more on the conversion optimization side of things, where they're auditing their site, they are adding new content, they're adding more pages, more depth to their websites, trying to figure out or trying to improve their conversion funnels, both for e-commerce and for lead gen clients. So it's more of the behind the scenes, the web that we have seen, the web development that we have seen, people trying to clear the clutter from their to-do projects that typically get backburned.
No, it's great to be able to address some of those things that are, I know for my team, I've got the same list of issues, and we're trying to take advantage of this time. You've got to offset that with, we're all working from home and doing the best that we can, but it's good to be able to pay some more attention to things that when you're going 100 miles an hour, you don't necessarily get to. I know you're not an economist, but do you have a sense of what's your gut feel on how quickly this is going to bounce back? Like how, if we think about things ramping back up, any last tips?
Yeah. So like I said, I'd hate to speculate on how long COVID will last. Hopefully we're already at the apex and it's starting to come down. I think from a digital perspective, once it does, it's going to bounce back pretty quickly. And I also think we're going to have a long tail for the clients that have seen an increase in demand. I think there's going to be a very long tail that they experience as a result of this. I think overall the consumer buying behavior, the digital behavior is changing. And, we had the apex in demand and it's going to start tailing off. But I don't think that is ever going to get back down to where it was, whether it's curbside pickup, whether it's food deliveries. Those are two of the areas that have seen the largest increase over the last 4 to 6 weeks. And I don't think that that's going to drop back to the pre-level. So fortunately for those that are in that space, they will be benefited from it. But yeah, I think there's going to be a very long tail from it. But from an overall digital perspective, I think the bounce back is going to be pretty quick.
So an acceleration of some of those emerging trends is how I've heard that described before. That things were already happening on those curbside pickup or food delivery or things like that, but it's just more people are doing it faster than they would have otherwise.
Yep,
That makes sense. Well, great. I really appreciate your thoughts. You guys are a full service digital agency. If anybody needs help managing their programs, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can reach out to me directly, jake.r@Intertwine Interactive or info@Intertwine Interactive. We'd love to offer a free audit, whether that's paid search audit or an SEO audit, for anybody that would like to reach out to us as a result of this webinar.
Great. And we'll include your contact information. We'll send a follow-up email with the recording to everybody and include that in there. I really appreciate the time and looking forward to taking some live questions from our audience.
Great. Thank you.
So that's a glimpse into what a few advertisers are seeing. And as I mentioned at the outset, we think there are so many different situations that everyone is facing, but that there is a set of questions that we should all be asking. So let's dive in. What are the questions that every digital marketer should be asking? First and foremost, is my messaging correct? We're clearly in sensitive times, and now nobody wants to be seen as taking advantage of the situation or selling too aggressively. It isn't the time for wacky humor or talking about your killer sales strategy, or even saying simple things like visit us in store in your search site links. On the visual side, we do see brands playing around with things like social distancing showing up in their images here, and we think this is fine. I haven't seen this yet in a paid search ad, but I'm sure there's one out there. But here's a couple of examples of customers that we do think are doing this right. Dell is highlighting preparation to work remotely. The pizza delivery companies are trying to reassure their customers that it's going to be safe and it's okay to order. These are good. We think that advertisers should just be very carefully, closely reviewing everything you've got to make sure it's relevant and meeting the needs of the customer. Here's an example of another brand on one of their Amazon ads that I don't think got it quite right. They're talking about being social without social media. This is clearly a pre-COVID ad, and it was fine, but maybe not what they want to have right now. In this brand's defense, I actually checked since I pulled this last week, and it looks like they have updated their ad copy to see what's possible. Something a little bit more suitable for the current times. I'll wrap up this section with a quote from Marcel Marcondes, the CMO of Anheuser-Busch, and he was talking about how they're responding to advertising in this environment. And what he said is, you have to be customer-centric more than ever. Never be self-serving. There's no space now for anything that is not adding value to people. And so I think the most important thing is the filter to put on what you're doing is to focus on serving people's needs, and the messaging will probably be okay. The next question I think we should be asking is, do I have the basics right? So this is an example of a keyword in one of our clients' account. They were bidding on, it was toilet paper. And as you can see, before the crisis, not a whole lot of activity was going on. But obviously, conditions changed. The keyword peaked at $1,000 in spend per day before somebody noticed and paused the keyword. Did I mention that this advertiser doesn't sell toilet paper? Dramatic changes like this are happening everywhere. So I think making sure that you've got the basics right so you don't miss anything is super important. This starts with things like alerts. Making sure you've got an automated alert if you've got big increases or decreases in your campaign, ad, keyword performance. Now is also the time to revisit your negative keywords. Search patterns are changing and you may be overspending on the wrong kind of searches. In the previous section, we just talked about messaging. You can think about your site links. Are those are a great way to change your message really quickly across all of your campaigns? Are they up to date and showing the right things? Day parting is another pattern that has definitely changed. The typical peaks that we would see for our clients, maybe over lunchtime or in the early evening hours, have completely flattened out over the course of the day. So if you haven't taken a look at how your business pattern over the course of the day is operating now, you probably need to make some adjustments there. You've also got your budgets. If portions of your business are really popping relative to how they normally do, you may have campaigns that are budget capped, and you may want to think about adjusting those budgets or shifting budgets from other areas. And last but not least, of course, is bidding. And I think this is a bigger question, so we're going to put this into its own section. And the question here is, should I be changing my bidding strategy in light of all of this? And of course, bidding is incredibly complicated, and there's so many signals to work with. I hope everybody is using an automated bidding system to take advantage of all of those signals and get the best performance, whether it's our Marin's built-in bidding algorithm or Google's smart bidding. But when you strip everything down to what bidding is trying to accomplish, it's about understanding the revenue per click. And that's a function of your conversion rate and your value per conversion. Now, any automated bidding strategy will automatically adjust for a changing conversion rate. So if your conversion rate is going down because of the current environment, you're going to automatically be bidding down on those campaigns. But what your bidding algorithm may not have visibility to is how your value per conversion is changing. And so the question we really should be asking is, has my value per conversion changed? If so, you may need to adjust your targets. Now, there's a variety of reasons why the conversion value might change, but it's most likely due to friction in your purchase process that exists today that didn't exist before. Like, I can't come into the showroom and look at a car. And so if you're optimizing to leads, signups in an automotive example, but the conversion from the lead to purchase conversion rate has dropped down, you're going to need to adjust your targets. The other aspect to think about is what's going on with my inventory and my demand, and can I keep up with it? I think we're all familiar with this scene, what the paper towel and toilet paper aisle looks like at our grocery stores. This is my local Target and what it's looked like every time I've gone in there for the last month. It's not rocket science, but if you don't have enough inventory to fulfill the demand that you're looking for, and this may be because you've got a huge increase in demand, it may be because you've got supply chain issues, you probably don't need to be advertising. So maybe think about pulling back on your bidding in areas where you're not going to be able to match supply and demand. And then, of course, a very related topic is, should I be reducing my budgets? And we've got a few comments here on how to think about budgets. First is, you want to make sure your budgets are in the right place. Are you shifting your budgets to those products or services that have the most relevance during this period? The second, if you are pulling back, you of course want to shift budgets to the best performing campaign. So it's important to have a good understanding of what's working and what's not. But most importantly, I want to highlight something that Tim Armstrong recently said. He was the CEO of Oath as part of Verizon Media, but more relevantly, he ran Google's sales team during the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And in an interview last week, he said, if I was talking to the Google advertising base in 2008 and 2009, I would have said this is the single best time in the world to advertise and build your brand. And as you know, most companies were doing the exact opposite. I've seen the exact same thing happening right now. And so it's my belief that we as digital marketers should be fighting for every dollar that we can get to invest to help our businesses sustain during this period and emerge stronger on the other side. This is something that will help our companies, and I believe it's something that we can do to help get the economy back up to speed. We can help make up for lost dollars that are not happening in physical locations. And I think it's, obviously there's constraints that we're all going to be subject to, and we're going to get our allocations from the finance department. But there's a strong argument to be made that brands are going to come out stronger who can continue to invest. Magna Global has a report that talks about this, and they studied previous downturns in 2001, 2008, and 9. And those that were able to continue and sustain, of course, outperformed those that went dark during the recovery. The next question is, what can I be doing to set myself up for the recovery? We are seeing glimmers of hope that we're over the peak in some of the worst areas. And, we've got a long road ahead of us, but how do I make sure that I can come out of this as strong as possible? And as Jake mentioned during his session, a lot of his clients were working on ramping up their SEO investment. And during an economic downturn, SEO is an especially smart investment because of how cost effective it can be relative to other channels. But there's probably a number of other projects that you haven't gotten to, or they haven't gotten the attention they deserve when you're operating at 100 miles an hour. Every business is going to be different, but these are some of the favorites that we like to work with our clients on. We talk to them about revisiting their revenue tracking approach. Are they bringing in the full conversion funnel? Are they thinking about lifetime value? Does their tracking system work in a world where third-party cookies are going away and they want to have that visibility on mobile and soon Chrome? Second type of project we like to work on is first-party data integrations. One of the biggest ways our clients can differentiate from their competitors is by better leveraging the data that is their own. This could be anything from promotional calendar to customer segments, but by bringing this to bear on the auction, you can get a leg up on your competition and deliver better results from your marketing investment. Audience is another one, becoming more and more important in search. Is your audience built out and integrated across search and social? That's something that you can think about and may have the time to work on right now. For advertisers selling physical goods, the product feed is, of course, of fundamental importance. Is your product feed optimized? Can you do better than you're doing today? And the list goes on from there. There's various house cleaning projects that you probably have, dashboard reporting needs that can get built out. But if you've got some slack in your system right now because of the environment we're all working on, these are some things that you may want to think about trying to tackle. Another question we have many advertisers asking is, how else can I connect with my customers? What can I be doing? And I think one of the positive outcomes of this, or silver linings of this whole episode, has been how many of us have an overwhelming desire to help. There's so many companies that are just doing the right things, and this is materializing in a number of different ways. You've got companies, my favorite recent example is USAA, who realized that with fewer people on the roads, fewer people driving, they were not having to pay as much out in claims. And so they're automatically crediting their customers based on these lower costs. And this is going to amount to the tune of about over $500 million in credits that they're going to be giving back to their customers because they've incurred lower costs. Airbnb similarly is doing what it can to help protect both its customers, the people who are traveling, as well as the hosts. They've been very generous with rebating non-refundable bookings, as well as giving some revenue to the hosts who all of a sudden are seeing big shortfalls in their revenue. Now, these types of decisions are probably beyond the scope of marketers, but they do show, companies trying to do everything they can for their customers and do the right things. If we think about what we can do as marketers to connect with the customers, Coca-Cola offers an interesting example. They're giving over their Twitter feed to try and share helpful information and connect with people who may not be looking at other channels for information about what's going on with the virus. Of course, everybody's on Zoom, a lot of events and things have shifted digitally. Webinars, panels, those type of activities are very common. And people are going to continue to do more of those. Also shifting, what you can to online activities. So you see gyms, fitness studios, Nike putting out online classes that people can take. My daughter actually just did a dance class that she would normally do in person, and that's a way that her dance studio is helping keep her engaged and active during this period. So it's a time for us to be creative and think about how we can connect with our customers. There is, as we spend a lot of time online, I think there's going to be fatigue at a certain point, and so we do need to make sure that we keep pushing the envelope and being creative on how we do this. And what other resources available that besides what's out there? And similar to companies trying to help, there's been a lot of materials that have been put together by the different publishers. So Google and Facebook have their ideas. We've got some blog posts, Amazon. We've compiled a list of resources that we think are useful, and we'll send these out as part of the follow-up with the recording. So don't worry about trying to copy anything down right now. But we think there's a lot of good ideas out there, and this is just the tip of the iceberg that we're able to cover today. In addition, we at Marin have put together a program called Expert Assist, and this is designed to help our customers adapt to this environment. It combines getting the best out of our core platform and capabilities with helping out with some of those advanced solutions. So those more strategic backlog projects we are trying to work our customers through now that they may have a little bit more bandwidth to do. And then because your needs may be fluid right now, we're also helping with short-term managed services. So this is flexible, short-term basis. If there's something that we can help with, if you're struggling with any aspect of your digital marketing, we'd love to figure out something that's going to work for you. So please reach out to us, and like I said, we'll follow up with a recording, and tips on how to connect with that. With that, let's invite Jake back in and take some questions from the audience.
Okay, so Jake, we've got a number of questions here. The first one that I wanted to address was, actually, before I get to the questions, for anybody who's interested in asking something, please submit your question on the panel on the right, or on the GoToWebinar panel. There's a question section, and we'll try and take as many as we can in the next 5 or 10 minutes here. The first question is that for this customer is seeing their conversion rate dropping, how should they think about bidding on their brand terms in that environment?
From a brand perspective, if your conversion rate's dropping, brand really is going to be the last place that we would recommend that you pull back from if it is currently in your marketing mix. If it's in your marketing mix, it's obviously profitable to the business to continue on it. And even with that drop in conversion rate, more times than likely, it's going to make sense to leave that on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, brand terms are generally a little bit less expensive than the more upper funnel stuff. And, it helps you dominate the page. People are going to be searching from their phones quite a bit, and you prevent a competitor from getting in there and potentially taking those customers from you. Yeah, customers are of utter importance right now, and so if you did pull out, if you did stop advertising on your brand, you run the risk of losing what is most valuable right now, and that's the new customers. Got it. Okay. Next question. I don't have a ton of context here, but they're asking, should I think about moving budget from the bottom of the funnel to the middle or the top? And I've got some thoughts on this, and Jake would love to have you chime in. I think one situation that businesses are running into is they've got to make up for revenue that they're losing in physical channels. And so if you have to shift how people think about your company or your offering, that may be a reason to try and invest a little bit more in the middle or the top of the funnel, so that they know that you've got an e-commerce presence, or they know that you're doing delivery or curbside pickup, or whatever it may be that's shifted in your business that may be different than what they were thinking of before. So that would be one reason I would think about shifting budgets. But Jake, do you have any thoughts on that question?
I would echo that. It's really understanding the value proposition that the mid and upper funnel channels are having to the overall business. And if your business can sustain an increased investment in those channels at the ROAS that you are currently getting from the mid and upper funnel channels.
Got it. Okay. Another question here is coming in about our industry. Do we think that this is going to drive a decrease in job opportunities for digital marketers? And do you have any tips for staying relevant? What we should be doing for our own careers during this?
Yeah. Short term, there may be, because there are a lot of industries that are pulling back. Short term, there may be some sacrifices that we as digital marketers have to make. But I think long term, it's going to bounce back, and there's going to be more demand in 3, 6, 12 months than there was over the last 3, 6, 12 months. So short term, I'd really focus in on all of the skills that you have, and not just, if you are a paid search marketer, make sure you're an expert at Amazon, make sure you're an expert at YouTube, at display, if there's an increase of inventory in those channels right now. So just really use this opportunity to broaden your knowledge, your skills that you're bringing to your clients, your organization, or whoever you work with.
Yeah, I think the good news in the long term here is obviously with everybody being at home, you're online all the time, and so digital is going to be the first line of contact that companies have with their customers. So there's although there may be some macro trends where people are concerned about economic uncertainty, they look to pull back overall. But digital is definitely not going away, and so I think we're in the right place. And the industry, while it may take a little bit of a hit this year, is going to continue to grow and evolve. And more dollars are going to be shifting to digital from traditional media. I mean, people aren't looking at billboards right now, so. That's a long-term trend that I think will continue to be in all of our favor. Next question I've got here is from somebody in the UK. They wanted to see if we're seeing different patterns in the US versus the UK. And I would say, we haven't really seen a big difference in what we're seeing. There's similar, there's some subtle differences in timing. There's some the way that the government programs are supporting different industries may play out slightly differently, but in terms of overall impact, the same type of industries, the same type of challenges, opportunities are kind of working in both sides of the Atlantic from what we're seeing in our customer base. The next question I've got here is from somebody who is asking about the number of impressions that we showed at the beginning. Number of searches are increasing. The question is that increasing in total or in rates of search per person? And the answer is I don't know the answer to that. What I did was basically look at across all of Marin's customers and just see how many impressions we were exposed to. So, what I wanted to see there was there a big drop off in search activity that would indicate that people are pulling away from search and hunkering down. And I think the very clear answer from that spike in the early chart was no, that's not something that we were seeing. It really looks like there is consumer demand out there, and I think that I really do believe that we can help meet customer demand, help jumpstart the economy and what people are looking for as this starts to unwind. By making sure that people can get what they need. One more question. This one's a kind of an interesting specific situation that I'd love to get your thoughts on, Jake. There's a participant who's lives on a small tourism-based island, and so a lot of the customers are tourist companies, travel companies that aren't seeing a lot of traffic, of course, because people aren't traveling, and so they're not able to sell anything to their clients. Would you have any advice for what sounds like a small digital agency, how they should be helping their customers or what they should be doing in this time? Does, you mentioned SEO earlier. Does that make sense? Or is there something they can do to help their customers recover, but recognizing that they probably also need to be paying the bills?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for the detail. Great question. This is the prime example to do all those items that have been backburnered. This is an example of a time that I would not reinvest the lower your bottom of the funnel, your search budget into other channels or into other mid and upper funnel tactics, just because the demand, regardless, is not going to be there. So I would take those budgets, take your time right now and reinvest in the offline tactics that you can do, which again, yes, would be SEO. I love some of Wes's recommendations earlier from audience, identifying your audiences and building a better audience strategy, understanding your tracking, your revenue tracking, whether that's lifetime value, your first party integration. So I think there's a lot of other things that can be done. Again, knowing that in general, demand's going to be down and you're not going to be able to recoup that in any other way. So how can you focus your time to make sure that in 3 months your business is set up for success?
Yep. Okay. Makes sense. Well, I want to let you and everybody else get on with their day. So why don't we take one last question here, and I'll let you take a first stab at this, and then we can close it out. What would you say to a client who wants to only have high-performing campaigns on due to cash constraints, even if that turns off the upper part of the funnel? Is that a valid strategy for somebody who's got to be focused on getting the right ROI or cutting their budget back?
Yeah, at the end of the day, every business needs to make the best financial decision for them. And if cash is of utter importance and the investment into acquiring new customers is not right now, then I would understand what tactics, what channels, what keywords, what campaigns are generating your highest return and prioritize those. And whether you turn off all other channels or you just significantly adjust what your acquisition targets are, there's things that you can do to make sure you don't just completely go dark. Maybe just pull back your bids. Maybe you just increase your ROAS targets that you're trying to hit. So there are things that you can do to become more efficient as opposed to just flat turning it off. But I would focus in on the top performers.
Great. Well, with that, why don't we wrap things up? That was Jake Renter, the COO of Intertwine Interactive, a digital agency based in Omaha, Nebraska. And this is Wes McLagan. I run the marketing team at Marin Software. We appreciate everybody joining us today, and we will be sending out an email with the recording and the links as promised. And if anybody needs additional help, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach back out to me directly, and we'll see what we can do to keep your business going strong. Hope everybody has a great day. Please stay healthy and safe.